Hi you guys. I usually only make videos on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And today's Tuesday, but I'm making an extra one because I just read a comment that really broke my heart, and it was because I misspoke. And I want to with God's help, I'm gonna be able to correct it. So the comment that broke my heart, there was actually two comments that brought up questions, but it was because of the last video I did when I was, at the end of my video, when I was talking about how God, all you have to do is ask and you'll see God working or whatever. And that's not the truth. It is the truth that his heart is always to bless. His heart is always to love. But things don't always get answered the way that we want. And this really broke my heart. It was Oliver 123. He said, "This is disturbing. Was it God's plan that my sister died of cancer at the age of 5? It was absolutely not God's plan, Oliver." And I hope that you didn't unsubscribe, and I hope that you still get a chance to see this. I did write you back, and I hope you see that. It was absolutely not God's plan. Jesus rose from the dead because he rose from the dead and he had total victory, but we are living in a war. A war between good and evil, a war between light and darkness. And it says in the Bible, and it's the truth, that the enemy, Satan, is always out to kill, steal, and destroy. And honestly, God is always out to break in with healing and with hope and life. And sometimes we see it even in today's day. Sometimes, I know of a situation where there was a doctor who was called in to minister to somebody he was a very well-known doctor, and this was in Fort Lauderdale. This was about a couple years ago, and this made the news. He was called in to work on somebody, but the person died. This was in the emergency room, and the doctor was walking away from the person. And if he had continued walking away, probably the person would have still died. But he felt nudged to turn around and just pray. This made the news, and the guy came back to life. And there are other instances happening all over that people get healed and things like that. But then what is so terrible, and this is when our prayers don't get answered and our loved ones die. And the good news is Oliver, your sister is in heaven. Your sister, God always has, there are children out there. His arms are full of babies and children, and I know that you wonder, and so do I, why didn't he answer our prayers? Why didn't he answer our prayers? Why isn't my sister still alive? And I don't have the answers. There are hindrances. There are, I know that there are sometimes curses that need to be broken. I know all this sounds really, really crazy, but if you watch on tomorrow, I'm making a video. Oh, today's not Tuesday, it's Thursday. But anyway, tomorrow I'm making a video with a friend who, hers is going to come out next week because I'm going to put out her son's tomorrow. But she was born into a family where her mom was a high-class call girl, and she was the mom's husband, who was the mom's pimp. It was not her father. Held her hostage so the mom would perform. and things like that. You're going to hear these stories, and she experienced all kinds of torment and hell and everything. But the thing is that Jesus himself appeared to her. Well, you're going to hear all that, but anyway, the thing is that he always wants to break through with healing and hope and things like that. And but our prayers are not always answered, and I don't know why. But I should not have said in my video that if you just have to talk to him and you'll see answers. Because when we lived in New Mexico and we went through our hard time, for some reason, I don't know, it didn't take me down. I wasn't destroyed by the fact that we were living in poverty and stuff. Faith rose up in me, and we saw miracles. But the thing is, my husband, and I've talked about this before, he was, God, why are we going through this, And now, years later, he can see, and he is the first one to say, God had a wonderful plan. God had a wonderful plan. And he did answer our prayers, but not in a way that we wanted. Like my friend here, Destiny Sand, I don't know how to pronounce her name, S-A-N-D-T. She's been very faithful to write to me. She's my friend online. And she said to me about my video where I misspoke. She said, sometimes I find it hard when I ask him for something that is really on my heart and it doesn't happen. And it's the truth. It is hard. Why? Why, God? But if we think back to the video I had about the guy who's a couple videos ago where I talked about the guy that was in Vietnam and he was blown up and his whole face was burnt, and his first response was, God, I still believe in you. And God has turned it around for good, because he doesn't promise us a rose garden, but he promises he will be with us in the storm, and he will turn it around for good. So I did misspeak. And the other thing I can say is God always answers, and he doesn't always say yes. Sometimes he says yes, sometimes he says no, and sometimes he says it's not time. Just wait. But when it comes to death, babies dying, I don't have an answer, and it breaks my heart, and I am so sorry that I misspoke, Oliver. But one thing I know is God's character. He always is love, and his heart is always to overcome, to help us to overcome. And I believe that his biggest heart is always to bring healing. He wants to bring healing and life. He is all about healing and life and hope and good things. And it's the enemy but we are in a war, and there is a battle going on. And just like in the Old Testament, when Daniel was praying and an angel came to him and said, I heard your prayer, God heard your prayer and sent me 21 days ago, but I've been in a battle, because there is a realm, and people talk about it in paranormal activity and all that. There's a realm of darkness out there too, and it wants to take us down. But the thing is that his light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. And I don't have answers I don't have an answer for why your sister died, Oliver. But it breaks my heart that I misspoke, and I'm really sorry. Okay, well, anyway, so I just ran to wash my face and brush my teeth and when I read that, and to get in front of the camera again, so that because it disturbed me so much and it broke my heart. But anyway, I love you guys, and 2 exciting videos are coming up. My friend who has an amazing story, and her son who came through a time when he almost committed suicide, and he's going to talk about that. Okay, I love you guys. Bye.